Welcome everybody. This is Rimon Mahmud from Toronto, Canada. Today is March 18th, Tuesday, 2020, and time now is 2:57 p.m. So, Canadians are smiling to some extent, of course, during this crisis. Today, this morning, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, he has announced a massive economic package. They're calling it emergency response package for the Canadians to help the Canadian business owners and the Canadians alike to cope with the global COVID-19 pandemic. In total, it is $82 billion and perhaps a little more. It includes income support, wage subsidies, and tax deferrals. Combined together, it is worth more than 3% of the current GDP of Canada. That's huge. How are Canadians responding to it? I think they're doing good. They're happy, they're smiling, and they're welcoming this gesture from the government wholeheartedly. Now, the aim of this package is to help the Canadians to pay for grocery, rent, sustain life, their day-to-day life during this crisis time, and also help the business to continue to make the payroll and pay bills and stabilize the economy. I'd like to give credit to Susan Delacourt, whose tweet I'll be using. At the same time, the different national medias that are publishing all this news. So what I have done is basically extract the important information and presenting it to you. Not something very complicated. Now, let's go through the package. First of all, support for workers. It is said that Canadians should not have to worry about paying their rent or mortgage during this current crisis. So what does it mean? Government of Canada is taking action to provide additional assistance to families with children by temporarily boosting the Canada Child Benefit Program. This would include almost $2 billion in extra support. Government is also introducing emergency care benefit of up to $900 bi-weekly for 15 weeks, up to 15 weeks, to provide income support to workers who must stay home and do not have access to paid sick leave. That's huge. This measure could provide up to $10 billion to the Canadians. It includes workers, including self-employed, who are sick, quarantined, and who have been directed to self-isolate but do not qualify or for employment insurance sickness benefits. Number two, this will also include workers, including self-employed, who are taking care of a family member who is sick due to COVID-19, such as possibly an elderly parent or dependents who are sick and do not qualify for the EI sickness benefit. EI eligible and non-eligible working parents who must stay home without pay because of the children who are sick and who need additional care because of the school closure will also fall under this. Next, government is introducing emergency support benefit that will be delivered through the Canada Revenue Agency to provide up to $5 billion to support the workers who are not eligible for EI. Next, it will provide additional assistance to individuals and families with low and modest income with a special top-up payment under the GST, Goods and Services Taxes. This measure would inject about $5.5 billion into the economy. Government will waive for a maximum of 6 months the mandatory 1-week waiting period for EI sickness benefit for workers in imposed quarantine or who have been directed to self-isolate, as announced on March 11. This time, up to 6 months, will depend on future as well as the situation unveils. Government will waive the requirement for a medical certificate to access the EI sickness benefits. Government will extend the tax filing deadline for individuals up to June 1st. It will also allow all taxpayers to defer until August 31st, 2020, the payment of any income tax amounts that become owing on or after today and before September 2020. This relief would apply to tax balances due as well as installments under Part 1 of the Income Tax Act. No interest or penalties will be imposed. Government will provide eligible small businesses a 10% wage subsidy for the next 90 days, up to a maximum of $1,375 per employee. and $25,000 per employer. Employers benefiting from this measure would include corporations eligible for small business deduction as well as not-for-profit organizations and charities. This will help employers to keep people on their payroll and help Canadians to keep their jobs. Government will provide increased flexibility to lenders to defer mortgage payments on homeowner government-insured mortgage loans to borrowers who may be experiencing financial difficulties during this time. Point to note, already the banks, they have taken decision, the major 5 or 6 banks, they have taken decisions to defer the mortgage payment or be flexible around it. In addition, government will also provide targeted support for vulnerable groups. So they will invest in reducing minimum withdrawals from Registered Retirement Income Funds, which is RRIF, by 25% for 2020. Government will implement a 6-month interest-free moratorium on Canada's student loan payments for all individuals who are in the process of repaying these loans. Government will provide $305 million for a new distinctions-based Indigenous Community Support Fund to address immediate needs in First Nations, Inuit, and Métis national communities. Government will support women and children fleeing violence by providing up to $50 million to women's shelter and sexual assault centers to help with their capacity to manage and prevent an outbreak in their facilities. This includes funding for facilities in Indigenous communities. Government will also provide an additional $157 million, $157.5 million to address the needs of Canadians experiencing homelessness through the Reaching Home program. That is about the support for the individuals and small business, but further for business. In the face of an uncertain economic situation and tightening credit conditions that's ongoing, government announced measures to allow all business to defer until August 31st, 2020, the payment of any income tax due that become owing on or after today and before September 2020. It is same as is offered to the individual Canadians. This would apply to all the things that I said in case of individual Canadians, such as tax balance installments under Part 1 of the Income Tax Act. No interest or penalties will be accumulated or will be levied during this period. Government will increase the credit available to small, medium, and large Canadian businesses. As announced, it was announced on March 13, a new business credit availability program will provide more than $10 billion of additional support to businesses experiencing cash flow challenges through the Business Development Bank of Canada and Export Development Canada. Government will stand ready to provide more capital through these corporations. Government will also further expand Export Development Canada's ability to provide support to domestic business. It will provide flexibility on the Canada account limit to allow government to provide additional support to Canadian businesses, which are deemed to be of national interest. Government will take measures to augment credit availables for farmers and agri-food sector through Farm Credit Canada. So these are all targeted towards farmers and also agri-food sector. Government will launch an insured mortgage purchase program to purchase up to $50 billion of worth insured mortgage pools through CMHC. CMHC stands for Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation. It was announced on March 16. This will provide stable funding to banks and mortgage lenders and support continued lending to Canadian businesses and consumers. The 6 largest financial institutions, as I said, in Canada, they have made a commitment to work with the personal and small business banking customers on a case-by-case basis to provide flexible solutions to help them manage through challenges such as pay disruption during the COVID-19, childcare disruption due to school or daycare closure, and also, as a first step, this support will include up to 6-month payment deferral for mortgage. So it will impact many Canadians. Government will continue to take further actions as necessary and as situation unveils. That's a little bit about emergency response package. I'll come back again with further update or development, but suffice to say at this point in time, I do believe personally, and I think Canadians will agree that government at different levels are moving very aggressively, very positively to make sure that Canadians worry a little less. Thanks for listening and tuning in. I'm using my channel to provide update, and if you'd like to receive further, or you like what I'm doing, please do subscribe and be with me. Walk with me, Rimon Mahmud. Thank you so much. Signing off, Rimon Mahmud from Toronto, Canada.